watching Veracity Hill. Here is your host, Dr. J.
Well, a good day to you, and thanks for joining me here for another episode of Veracity Hill, where we are striving for truth on end of the year reflections. It's not really so much striving for truth, but rather sharing with you some of the things we've been striving for truth on this past year. I'll be reflecting on topics, themes, episodes that I've done this year. I was even tallying up. I had to get out my calculator to figure out, what was it? So we've put together 39 episodes by my counting. 39 episodes this year. Earlier in the year, we were still settling in from our move and doing some work on our building here. So we took, I think, a winter break of maybe 2 or even 3 months off so we could get things situated proper and in really some of the best quality we've ever put together at Defenders Media and Veracity Hill. So, yes, not quite 52 episodes this year. I probably took a couple weeks off in the summer as well. You know, when I first was doing Veracity Hill, we call it Season 1, largely interviews. 4 years of just every Saturday, there was always an interview. And so we've sort of switched things up here in Season 2 since we relaunched the podcast. And delighted to do more teaching myself. We still mix in interviews from time to time, but you certainly hear my voice a bit more these days, and I hope that's all right. I've been hearing from people who have really enjoyed the program. I had a call with a fellow last week who his name's Mario. He's a fan of the program. And then also later I'll be playing a clip from one of our listeners, Anthony, and I want to share with you what he has to say about Veracity Hill. But first, I want to reflect on the year, engage with a couple comments that came up on YouTube, and mostly haters. I've been dealing with material from non-believers quite a bit, so I use haters playfully. Of course, I suspect these people don't actually hate me. But, you know, that's the lingo these days, is when you've got online haters. Not quite troll. Well, there definitely are trolls. I'm just ignoring their comments. But we'll look at some comments or questions from some people that disagree with the material that I've been putting out. So first, let's review. So if you were to go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Veracity Hill, if you search for Veracity Hill, thankfully there's no one with that name or anything close. So we've got a good market here. You can click on the live tab and you can see. Now, some of our episodes, maybe a couple, were pre-recorded this year. But otherwise, you'll see most of the live. And I'll just scroll all the way back to when I think was roughly the start of... Yes, here we are. So I started off looking at Models of Salvation. And you can see here the moving update, doing some mobile things because we just weren't quite set up. You can even look the little preview if you see, if I can zoom in perhaps, you can... see here the little previews, the little mobile live stream versus the more production. We've got big, huge lights, and we've got the live stream camera, and so we sort of make it a production here. I enjoy that. That's part of what makes Veracity Hill a part of Defenders Media. So just to help those, Defenders Media is the 501c3 organization. Veracity Hill is the speaking teaching ministry. That's the way the relationship works. We've got, at Defenders Media, we've got clients, we've got ministry partners, and actually we had just announced in our newsletter, our Q4 year-end newsletter for Defenders Media, we announced a couple new partnerships. So this past quarter, we've done a lot of work for the Evangelical Philosophical Society. We fixed up their website, and we've brought in, since we took over stewardship, their membership roll is up 50+%. So we've really helped them. It's been a joy to help them. We also announced partnerships with David Wood and Vocab Malone, the street apologist. And you might know David Wood from Acts 17, Apologetics. Now he's got a channel called Apologetics Roadshow. They're partnering with Defenders Media, and so we're assisting them with administrative and donor development work. So happy and delighted to partner with them. So, all right, back to Veracity Hill. Looking at what we've done. We led off looking at Models of Salvation, where I did teaching on these different isms from Ordo Salutis, the Order of Salvation. Now, of course, I didn't to start, I didn't quite give my own views. I was just describing what these other views were. And then there was an episode where I went into my Ordo Salutis. And then what I did was I interviewed the people that identify as these other positions. So that was fun because I got to chat with Chris Date and Leighton Flowers and Eric Hernandez. And we've got Dan there, the Arminian. And then we transitioned into Salvation Wars. So we were looking at Matthew Bates's new book. We had a few episodes on that. And that kind of spurred, looking at salvation from Bates's perspective, he tries to build this bridge of sorts between Protestants and Catholics. He's certainly not a Roman Catholic. He is a happy Protestant, but he does believe that Rome needs reforming. And so that sort of led me to think about Roman Catholic Protestant conversations. So then we, over the summer, did this shorter series on Sola Scriptura, looking at a video by Cameron Bertuzzi. So if you haven't had a chance to look through that, there's 4 episodes on that. And then we were celebrating episode 250, and then, let's see here, we looked at some Bart Ehrman material, his 3 favorite contradictions. Then it looks like I got into my debate material. I had a debate that I participated in late August on Romans 9. And then we got into historical Jesus material. We started looking at a book by Bart Ehrman here, which we're still in the middle of, How Jesus Became God. So this has been our autumn series, and we'll go into our spring series as well, though we very likely will mix it in with some other episodes looking forward into 2026. But you can see we've only made it halfway through this book, and it's been fun to go deep. Sometimes you might be watching a YouTube video and it's just surface level material. You've already seen a number of interviews on the existence of God, or even on, say, the resurrection of Jesus, but sometimes you just want to go deeper into the material and look at what are the 3 arguments that support that one thing that you heard in a video. Well, this series, looking at Bart's book, Bart Ehrman, allows us to go deeper into the subject matter. And I've enjoyed that, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Maybe you've learned something new because you just haven't ever found yourself going so far into the rabbit hole on these arguments for at least Ehrman's model of how he believes Jesus became God in the mind of his later followers. So then we had last week, or 2 weeks ago, forgive me, an episode defending the Christmas story. And I encourage everybody to check out this book by Sabine Hübner. And it deals with an argument for the plausibility of that Luke did not get the census wrong. So we've had some fun episodes this year. And, I couldn't do this without the support of Defenders Media, the team, the staff. I know I mention them at the end of every episode, but really Veracity Hill has continued to grow. We've been putting out more clips and shorts than ever before. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to subscribe to Veracity Hill on YouTube, and you'll get a notification every time that there's a new video. So that's every day, roughly. Now, the holiday time, some folks are taking well-deserved time off. So during the normal times of the year, you'll get 7 videos a week from Veracity Hill. So it's been a blessing to continue to bring this program, this educational program to you, these resources. And let's get into some comments. There was one bigger one I wanted to tackle right away as we think of, this is from the video Questions from a Critic, which was a clip. And this comment comes 2 weeks ago, and I'll read it in length. I will zoom in if I can, because Cypher Closen UF 9242 has presented a theory, a model for what he thinks happened, and then he wants me to see if he's mistaken. So I'll offer my reflections. So this gentleman writes, or lady, perhaps gentleman though, very well, we have eyewitness accounting for extraordinary events. The details matter a lot because those details add up to veracity. Yeah, nice word. Good job there. If the revivified physical Jesus floated in the sky in the presence of witnesses, that would be extremely significant and memorable. Note, I do take an issue with his description of a revivified physical Jesus as opposed to a resurrected Jesus. Two different terms, two distinct terms, and they mean different things. Continuing on, he writes, Paul, who knew eyewitnesses, offers us nothing like an account of this event, nor does James, nor does Mark. John implies an ascension but ends with fishing on a lake in Galilee, not a mountain. A real God permits knowledge of this miracle among significant people to be lost to history. Or, a real God permits Luke to describe Jesus being carried into the sky in Bethany, which is not a mountain in Galilee. Matthew ends on a mountain in Galilee with no narrative of an ascension included. One may argue that the disciples went to Galilee and went fishing. The catch was miraculous. They enjoyed supper, then climbed a mountain, then journeyed back down to Bethany where Jesus floats away, but only Luke records that final event. A real God is not prevented from preserving details. A reasonable person may conclude that much is lost to history and much is indistinguishable from a literary exercise of devotion over substance. Let me, before I finish reading his comment, notice this subtle theological belief that comes into his analysis of these states of affairs. As he's trying to form a model of how he thinks this happened, he writes, a real God is not prevented from preserving details. What he means by that is that a real God wouldn't be prevented from preserving the details that this gentleman believes needed to have been preserved, and that the type of variety wouldn't have been so drastic, so on and so forth. This fellow simply didn't get the documents the way he wanted them. That's what this subtle theological sentence is infusing into the objection. So, he continues writing, being honest about fishing trips and floating into the sky isn't sinful if a real God's words and deeds are worthy of fact-tethered truth. How am I mistaken? People write books. Putting words into God's mouth is blasphemy. It's biblio-idolatry. A real God wasn't prevented from preserving authenticity and letting the nonsense be lost to history. What we have, such as Mark's pseudographical conclusion, is what we may expect of people writing books. How am I mistaken? Okay, that's long-winded, but he gives this model, this description that essentially he thinks the evangelists are authors of the four Gospels were simply writing books of largely fiction and nothing more. And he's communicated this model with, as I mentioned, some subtle theological positions that are infused into his comment here. But I think he is mistaken for many reasons. To write a work of fiction doesn't require an empty tomb. To write a work of fiction doesn't require Paul, a Jew of Jew, to become a Christian. Remember, Paul was killing the Christians. So what is it that inspires or motivates him to forsake the religious socio-culture that he was in? I won't say forsake his religion, because Christianity is, I believe, the fulfillment of Judaism. The law and the prophets are fulfilled in Jesus Christ. But Paul turns his back to the society, family members, so on and so forth, and puts his own life at risk for this belief. If the evangelists were simply writing books of fiction, what leads Paul to make that shift? What leads James, the brother of Jesus, to make that shift, that same type of shift that Paul makes? A work of fiction is highly insufficient for doing that. What is it? You can write a work of fiction, but what is it that leads the disciples to become bold proclaimers that Jesus is in fact resurrected, that he has been bodily resurrected? Even if your Messiah were to die, your Messiah figure were to die, and your expectations shattered, you could come up with some other explanation for why you were wrong and how your Messiah still lives, like existentially. He lives in our hearts. His legacy lives on, so on and so forth. That doesn't lead one to say he's been actually physically resurrected. Here's the empty tomb. He made post-mortem appearances. This sort of model that Cypher is presenting simply doesn't deal with the historical data. So I think that conclusion needs some more work. All right, let's look at a couple other comments I had. Here's one I wanted to share with you from Wesley Benson. This is a month ago. I just saw it now on a Screeching or Teaching segment. He writes, "We may disagree on some things, but I enjoy watching your videos." So one of the values I have at Veracity Hill is fair dialogue, and another is to build bridges. And these two values sort of work together to realize that, hey, there are some issues where we might not agree, but let us find a way to disagree in civility. And if we're talking Christian to Christian, also disagree in brotherly love. There is a way to disagree in a good spirit, and there's a way of disagreeing in a bad spirit. When you disagree with people and you block them from commenting on your public figure Facebook page, that person is immature. That type of person who does that sort of thing is immature. So we need to have this fair dialogue. We need to show maturity and to realize that not everybody's going to agree with us, and that's, in many cases, that's okay. There are things that are not worth breaking fellowship over. All right, let's take a look at one more. Well, this was a more recent one, and we certainly got some haters here on this one. So, defeating McClellan's defeater was the clip where I was looking at Dan McClellan's defeater against the Luke's census, the historicity of Luke's census, and this is where I got some haters. Lost Fan writes, "Dude, the data isn't there. Like, just because it's possible doesn't mean it's likely or even probable. All you've done is found a small bit of not impossible, and you're living there." So here's the problem, Lost Fan 5054. I think we do have evidence that Quirinius was governing in Syria during this time before he was governor. I think Luke provides that evidence. You and Dan McClellan are the ones saying, no, he's wrong. Now you've got to show how he's wrong. So the problem is that Dan McClellan hasn't made a successful case against Luke's claim. He's simply dismissing Luke's claim. But that's not the way it works in debate or logic. Now, someone's making a claim, they have to support their point. Yes, what we're suggesting is that Luke constitutes as a historical piece of evidence that Quirinius was governing, which is what the text says. It doesn't say he was governor. The text says he was governing in Syria at this time. I'm not the one dismissing the evidence. Dan McClellan is. And he hasn't shown why we should dismiss the evidence. So, it's not that I'm just saying it's possible and I'm living in this realm of possibility. It's that I'm saying there are rules to logic and debate, and the critics have not successfully proven their case. So we do find reason to believe that Luke is telling the truth here. All right, there was another one that caught my attention. This was it here. From Ewental Lenny. Quirinius has no data of having ruled twice in Syria. The critical view is to say nothing is definitive until proven, whereas the apologetic view is to say that it could be possible. So there is one historical record that suggests an unnamed someone served twice as governor of Syria. This is something that I brought up, yep. The apologists say it could have been Quirinius, while the critics say it does not say who, so we're not going to assume. The critics don't use data that doesn't show its own relevance. The apologists use whatever data they can find, regardless of the data being specified. So, on this, I do want to make one clarification. the argument I was putting forth was that because Luke's text says Quirinius was governing, we do not need evidence that he was governor twice. It very well could have been the case that he held a lower position, but yet still higher up in the ranks in Syria. And I gave what I take to be a plausible argument about the military presence in the eastern part of the Roman Empire, using Syria as a base of operations for while Quirinius was performing a military campaign in a mountain range in Turkey. That seems plausible, a plausible scenario to me about how Quirinius was governing in Syria without forcing the model to commit to the belief that Quirinius was governor. So that's how I would suggest we need to look at Luke's text. But thank you, Ewan Ta Lenny, for your comment last week. All right, Amateur Knight, good to see you. Not a fan of Knives Out. Lots of mentions of Christ, but no real tension. Well, I'll be giving my own take on this in a little bit. But before I get to the Knives Out commentary, which I'm forgetting the subtitle, something like, what is it? Raise Up Dead Man or something. Wake Up Dead Man. Gabe's talking to Ben Meir. Thank you, Gabe. Wake Up Dead Man is the subtitle. I enjoyed it. I'll share some thoughts and reflections why, and I'll be joined by my friend and co-laborer in this ministry work, Mark Lester. But before we do that, I wanted to play for you a clip from one of our longtime listeners. And it's always fun to meet longtime listeners. You know, I stumble across people who stumble across Veracity Hill on YouTube, but it's a whole different type of experience and a joy to come across people who are listening to Veracity Hill for a long time. And I wanted to introduce you to Anthony. He's a fellow that I met several years ago now. He did electrical work on my house. He'll describe a little bit of that. And so that's how we met, and he's been listening to Veracity Hill ever since. So I will let him take it away. It is a 7-minute video, but I wanted to just let it play so you can hear from him, hear about how Veracity Hill has been of impact to him, and also what he's up to today. And later on, I'll share a link to the project that he describes so folks can perhaps chip in and support his own now ministry work. So I'll let Anthony take it away.
My name is Anthony Parma, and I met Dr. J before he was a doctor. Kurt, I can't remember the year, but it was when he was building his massive, restoring his massive house. I think it's considered a historic property. So it was 4 floors, and I was an electrician, and I knew Joseph Arden is my cousin, and that's how we got connected. So for I think 3 months, I lived sometimes at the property because there was nobody there, but I lived there. Even in the winter, there was a guest house. It was all like kind of dilapidated. Not dilapidated, just not livable technically. But there was a fireplace, and I started a fire anyway in there, and I slept the night. And I would do electrical work. I'd work the full week. At that time, it just worked out. I was going through a terrible divorce, and it was a dark time in my life. So I was just then coming off the rails. I knew enough doctrine to be dangerous, but I didn't understand the relationship between myself and the Father. And long story short, that is how I met Dr. J. He's been a friend, the greatest conversations, the funnest times. Through there are just so many stories I can get into, but that's how I met him. And then through a series of me walking away from the Lord and then turning back to him through jail. There's so much to this. You're like, what? Yes. At the time I was going through that divorce, my wife had an affair, and I had 3 kids with her, and we were married for 8.5 years. And she was pregnant when she had the affair. It devastated me. So that's the place that Dr. J found me in, and I was, like I said, just then coming off the rails, and then I started using drugs, and my whole life took a wrong path. Then, long story short, I'm now 5 years sober. I've went through adult and teen challenge and all those things, and that is me coming back into my life. Within that time, I reconnected with Dr. J. I still call him Kurt, but out of total respect for him, Dr. J. He's like, yeah, we got the website up. We're going to, I knew Veracity Hill before he changed the music, and I love that music. And it was, it's one thing I do now, is now I have a relationship with the Father, and it's strong, and I know He loves me. I know all of His Word is true. However, if I'm a semi-scholar, Dr. J is not even on the chart next to me. He's just way above me, and it bears weight in the conversations we've had. But I go to Veracity Hill to be challenged. I see a familiar face whom I love. He's easy to listen to, and the conversations really, really challenge me, especially the debates, how godly men debate God's Word in a godly way. It was awesome. Even the Arminianism and Calvinism debate actually got me to re-examine my position on Calvinism. Now, I didn't say I jumped over or left my position of Calvinism. If you're familiar with anything Dr. J does, you kind of understand where, that's the point of it. It makes you re-examine the scriptures in a deeper way, and these are scholars way above my pay grade, if you will. I know the Word, I know the truths, I know the doctrine, but not at that level, and they caused me to go, wait a minute, what is that point? And I run to the Word and I go, oh man, I didn't see that point. Wow, and it just huge expository, just pulling stuff out of the Word. So I love it. Sometimes I will do like large prep cooks, and I'll have like 3 hours, and I'll put on a debate, and I'll put on a thing, or I'm at work and I have it in my headphones. It's fantastic. And sometimes I'll eat a meal and just sit down and watch Dr. J. So, but that's when I have time. The next part of what Dr. J was asking me to say was that, hey, I'm part of a group now called Samson's Riddle. Like I said, I'm 5 years sober, and that is just a byproduct of following Jesus, not an identity, but that's the people that I go after now more than anything. People who are like me, who got caught up in a bad way, who are not wanting to be defined by the worst time of their life, and who face Jesus, and seek Him to become the person that He wants them to be as they take off these chains that they got themselves in when we say yes to the devil, What I do in Samson's Riddle is take all the pain that is in life, and instead of going to what I used to go to, the things that He's delivered me from, alcohol and drugs and immoral living and all those things, instead of trying to numb a wound that it never touches, I go to Jesus with that real pain that is still there, and I say, Lord, you sort this out. And I look for those who are doing the same thing. That's the heart of Samson's Riddle's music. The music's very good. I love the music, but it's just, once again, it's just a tool to reach people. And what I'm called to do is that music, and so that's where we're at in Samson's Riddle. We're building a base. It has been me forever, but now I ran into a record company run by Sony, and they called me and asked me to, hey, we want to do something with your music, but you need a band. I'm like, oh. So I put together a band of godly men. That was the first thing. I wouldn't do this with anyone who isn't just absolutely sold out to Jesus. And so I'm still looking for a bassist, but we got a keyboard player, phenomenal drummer, men of God, solid, grounded men of God, who are on board with the mission. So we're seeking to go ahead and just build that up and continue. Also got some people from Shine FM that wanted to say hi and is going to meet with me in January. So I don't really care about any of this stuff. What I care about is the same thing you guys do and Dr. J does. The Word has to be what we present, because nothing else changes lives. And I just love Dr. J anyway, even if he was like a plumber, just a plumber. Not that it's a bad thing. I'm just an electrician. He's just so awesome. He's just such a great person, giving, just full of joy, life pouring out of him. If you know him at all, if you've seen him, you kind of get it. If you know him, you really know. He's just bubbling, and he's just a great man, and super knowledgeable Word. I love him so much. So that's it. I just wanted to say that. share that he's changed my life. Like running into him, encountering him, he's one of the tools that I use in my belt ministry now to go deeper and to just stay grounded and planted. So I hope this helps. Whatever you're going to use this for, Kurt. Thank you so much for being part of my life and loving me. Even when I, you found out I was in jail all those years ago. When I got out, you stayed connected and you stayed concerned. And Kurt's the real deal. So that's it. That's all I got. Hail King Jesus. I love you guys.
All right.
My name is Ed.
So that was Anthony, and he's been a long-time listener. He reached out to me and wanted to share some things about Veracity Hill, and so I thought, hey, why don't you put together a little video and tell me what you're up to with the ministry stuff, and we'll share it on the live stream. So there you go, Anthony. And I've even shared, if you're interested in learning more about Anthony's ministry work right now through his band, Samson's Riddle, we've put his little GoFundMe that he's putting together in the live chat. I'll also share that link in the description of the video, and so feel free to chip in to his cause there. If you wanted to give to Samson's Riddle through a donor advised fund, if you are someone who's been saving your funds from a great career and you wanted to support it through a 501c3, please get in touch with me. You can go to and use the contact form at my website, veracityhill.com. Would be delighted to see how we can get you to support Anthony's ministry work through Veracity Hill. All right, so I want to share that video with you and to hear from Anthony about how he's enjoyed the material and programming from Veracity Hill. Now, I wanted to invite on to our show, if I can connect with him through the link that he provided me. Let's see here. I will bring on Mark Lester. I need to get myself here out of the picture there. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry. I'm also trying to catch up with you on the live stream, which of course is a few minutes behind, so that's why it's a little off there. But,
yeah, no worries. Yeah. Well, so for longtime listeners of Veracity Hill, you will know that I've mentioned Mark and thanked him almost every week. Mark works for Defenders Media. He is, in fact, the longest tenured laborer at Defenders Media. He currently owns that title, and you might be wondering how on earth could that be the case since I founded the thing. Well, those of you who've been following at least my life know I took a gig in 2020 that didn't work out, and so I returned back in 2021, spring of 2021, and so technically that makes Mark the longest standing man who he continues to serve Defenders week in, week out. Many of the things we take for granted, Mark helps to do here at Defenders. He also produces some media for us. If you follow Veracity Hill and you see these audiograms, we put out 2 a week. Mark is the man behind that magic. So glad to have you here. But really the reason why you're on this program today, Mark, is because you continue to dog me about talking about movies on the program. And
remember the last time that I was on? You remember what that was?
I don't.
It was November of 2024.
What did we talk about?
What do you think we had to talk about? We had to talk about politics.
We talked politics, not a movie, or was it a political movie? Remind me.
We talked about the election.
The election. Well, that was the episode on the Electoral College? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just simply defending the Electoral College. Also, a little factoid that I went 50 for 50 on calling the states on that election. So I dug into the polls and made my prediction accordingly. But we are going to talk about Knives Out, Wake Up, Dead Man, directed by Rian Johnson. It's a recent film on... Mark, since you're the movie aficionado, maybe you should talk about the film. Was this even in theaters, or was it a direct-to-Netflix thing?
It was basically Netflix, because Netflix basically owns the rights in long and short term, and keeping that simple, they keep the rights, but they released their they did release it in theaters for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
I didn't get around to. They released it before the initial release, which was a few weeks ago now. And yeah, so to answer your question, it wasn't theaters, but very briefly.
Well, so tell us about give us the brief synopsis or summary of the film before you I go to punches on our different analyses.
So yeah, this is the third film in the Knives Out films by Rian Johnson, who of course we know was responsible for The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah, responsible is a good word to use.
Yeah, which I still defend to this day. But going back to it, it's the third movie of a basic Agatha Christie-esque type
whodunit
story,
murder mystery.
And it brings back Benoit Blanc. That's how you say his name, and played by Daniel Craig. And he's got another case this time around. And this one was not just me telling you who should see it, but others like Sophia and such saying, Kurt should actually probably respond to this movie, which we tried to get you to do, and this time you actually listened to us. And yeah, and from what I understand, you had only seen the first one, not the second one. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have not seen Glass Onion, but the other one I do believe I saw. I mean, each of these films, even the Glass Onion one, it's a star-studded cast.
Yeah, that's definitely true. They have all been ridiculously stacked with actors that are very well known and stuff, and this one is no different. It still has Daniel Craig back as Blanc, but this time, of course, it took on a new type of flavor as it delved a lot into theology and Catholicism, if I said that
Catholicism
right.
Or Catholicity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and in terms of the star-studded cast, you've got Glenn Close, Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott. People would recognize Andrew Scott as Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock series. And more. Jeffrey Wright had a few lines, a couple appearances, couple scenes. So there's really some big names appearing in the film.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I'll start us off here by saying it's the best Christian film of 2025.
By which is, of course, the only Christian film you've probably seen.
Well, that's true. I was hoping to kind of bait you into a discussion about what constitutes as a Christian film.
Well, that does count.
I hear Gabe laughing.
Sounds about right. Well, of course, the listeners know that I obviously see a lot of movies, and you see like one movie every few months or so. So there have been, I'd have to look back on my Letterboxd to double check. I'm sure there have been other movies that have had more Christian values to it as well. Even in my church.
There's this whole subgenre of Christian films by Christian people. Now, I think that subgenre is improving over the years. The so-called Christian films are getting better, but I think there's also, and Mark, I know you don't follow the philosophy of it as much as I do, but this whole idea of Christian versus the world type of films, to me, when I watch a film like this by Rian Johnson, and it's his take on two competing versions of Christianity. And so you have this overarching personality of Monsieur Jefferson Wicks, played by Josh Brolin. He is, as I stated in our office conversation, he's the Mark Driscoll. He is this domineering figure who will gaslight people, as in he tells them straight up lies to just try and confuse them or make them feel uncomfortable. I don't want to say gain their trust, because trust is like, it's controlling. And So that's one version, but then you have this other version of Christianity that you see play out in the protagonist, Father Judd Duplessis. Is that how you say the last name?
Josh O'Connor.
Josh O'Connor's character. And you see this, what I really enjoyed, there were a couple great lines by Father Judd. There was a discussion about, do you fight against the world? And Father Judd said, no, you don't fight against the world. What you do is you want to show love to the world because there is this redemption. There's this redemptive, reversal of ways of the world. So these are like competing theories on how even Christians should engage with the world. Should we separate ourselves entirely? And Mark, you're not even aware of the types of conversations that Christian theologians have on this very subject. And here we are, we're receiving it in art form through film.
Well, yeah, I know there were definitely a lot of things going on in this movie that was like only Kurt and some others that I might know would get it. I think, and I'm looking at some of the comments now, there were some other Christian movies. David is that animated film that came out. I didn't get around to seeing that yet. I have heard of it.
How dare you?
And it's David. It's basically
about
David and Goliath.
Right, David and Goliath.
And and I see what Amateur Knight said. He's right. I didn't think the second one was as good as the first one or third one. But what I also like about these movies, too, just from an audience perspective, is that you didn't mention Josh O'Connor that much. There's not that much Benoit Blanc in this as much as there is his priest character. Because there's always that one character in all three movies that you can always latch onto because they're like our avatar, if you will. The first one had the one girl, Ana de Armas. The second one had Janelle Monáe, and then this one's Josh O'Connor. And so, and I think it's safe to say we all would rather have Josh O'Connor as a priest than the Josh Brolin character.
But that's exactly right. That's the point the director wants to make. That Father Judd's version of Christianity is more beautiful, and I think it's more. We would say it's more good. It's more. I would say it's more truthful. There's a truth aspect to beauty, but the benefit of communicating these ideas through art form is that we can witness beauty through our eyes, right? So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is not something that you make an argument for, like you don't have a debate over whether that is or is not beautiful. You know it, you see it, you perceive it. And so we can see that Father Judd's version of Christianity is more beautiful. And that's what's engaging. And also I think what's appealing should be appealing to viewers. This is where maybe I was a little disappointed in towards the end. You have Detective Blanc basically saying that religion's not for him. But while that's consistent with the character, I wonder if there's like a missed opportunity by Rian Johnson, because the whole point is that he's putting out this film to showcase this other version of Christianity, this other side, versus this strongman, celebrity-esque type of Christianity that so many people perceive and is out there, unfortunately. So I wish that there was a stronger case to be made for this beautiful version of Christianity to Detective Blanc in the film. But that would be if I had to be nitpicking. Amateur Knight saying more LGBTQ affirming. I'd have to think back to the film to see if there was anything in there that struck me for that. Nothing comes to mind, Amateur Knight, if you perhaps could refresh my memory.
I can't remember that offhand entirely. I know that there's definitely been a lot of talk about that, and I know Gabe's listening. I'm sorry, but we were talking a lot about this with Stranger Things.
Maybe there was one subtle. There was this phase in the film. Phase isn't the right term, but when Monsieur Wicks was preaching angrily at the visitors that would come, a montage.
Was it also? Yeah. Was it also? There might have been a part where Josh Brolin brought something. His character brought something out. Wait, walk out when the main person. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm looking at what Amateur Night is saying. I think I do.
Yes, that's the montage I'm thinking of. Yeah. So I think that's a very subtle. I think that's a very subtle dig, but I don't see it as necessarily telling us what we should think.
Yeah, it's definitely not as in your face to me, at least.
Correct.
As,
yeah.
Other things would have been.
And you think about it, like, what would a pastor do if a gay couple were to, walk into his church for the service?
You would think that he would notice it too. I mean, also, the Brolin character, his services are very not as attended as you would want ideally to have. They mention how he's really just used to his own flock,
right.
His own group of people of 7 or 8 people or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if a gay couple did come in, we as the viewer would know automatically they probably wouldn't, last that long. Sorry, I'm looking at what Amateur Night said, but they definitely left that possibility. Yeah, that's true.
So,
but no, I mean, go ahead. Sorry,
I was gonna say. So, there was one thing I wanted to share about Detective Blanc's. I don't know. Are we gonna talk spoilers or no?
I mean, I think we can. I know that Gabe, I'm bringing Gabe up again, but he did say that he knew we'd possibly be doing that, so he did end up seeing it. I think this movie has been out long enough for the most part.
Well, what I'll say is that in the end, Detective Blanc allows the person who is guilty,
the perpetrator,
yep, he allows them to basically confess on their own terms in humility, realizing that they've lost out, the end is near. There's one thing to embarrass people for the wrongdoing, and there's another way of doing it in such a way that you allow people to come on their own terms. That's something that the movie depicts, describes, shows, and I thought that was thought-provoking. There's sometimes we might want to say, "Oh, I got you," and we might be tempted to, say, "I told you so," but then there's another way that says, "Hey, let people admit that they were wrong on their own terms." Amateur Night says
it's the butler.
A clue reference.
That's true. That is very true. It is always the butler. But there's also this point. There's another key scene too that shows a little bit of a chance of hope and humanity in the movie when the O'Connor, where Daniel Craig and Josh O'Connor's character are looking through the office, and then he gets a call. The priest gets a call ends up talking to this one lady who needs to have a confession or something, and it takes him an hour or something.
Yeah.
It takes them a while to get through it, and Blanc lets that happen. He doesn't. He knows they gotta hurry up and find out what's going on, but at the same time he's like, okay, I understand. He at least restrains himself a bit. So that kind of also where that character trait comes from too, I felt.
Yep, part of this other version of Christianity is showing how a pastor, a priest, can just listen to people. That there are some people that they just need someone to know that they are there and that they're listening and that they're there for them. That's another version. That's the and that's a beautiful version. People
Yeah.
need to know
Well,
that they're not alone. It was, as King Solomon writes on the live chat, such a good scene.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, though, there's, Blanc is, talking about Paul of Damascus and saying he was, what did he say? He said something like, oh, Paul was blinded because, I don't know, something with pink eye, probably, or something like that. I was like, okay, probably not the case, but still, that was a funny line.
Can you help me here? Because I've had trouble pinpointing the type of accent. Is that Daniel Craig trying to do a American Southern accent? Is that what that is?
Most likely. He's having fun. I mean, obviously, he's a British actor.
Right.
Bond. But, yeah, he's doing his, like I said, Agatha Christie, so it's like, God, what's their name? I never saw any of the Barry Bart Ehrman. I'm just reading what his comment said. I don't know. It's got to be some form of Southern thing, but it's not so over the top like I do declare, I find foul
But I would
play.
almost prefer that, because to me it wasn't clear where Blanc was from, like where his accent was from.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a blend, which sometimes people have blended accents.
Yeah.
So, as I'd mentioned, I think this was the best Christian film of 2025. I haven't seen some of these other, so-called Christian films to compare it to.
What was the last movie you saw that came out in 2025? I'm assuming it was something based in Marvel.
Yeah, I'd have to. I mean, I only see a handful of movies a year. Mark sees a movie every week, so Mark gets a lot more exposure to what's out there, the good, the bad, the ugly. Mark will even pay money to watch an ugly film so he can report on it, which is pretty impressive. So
I've seen enough of the bad movies this year, thankfully.
But I think I'll be able to justify my remark that it's the best Christian film because of the production, the messaging, just top quality. I don't know that even the Christian sub-genre would come anywhere close in terms of script writing or production value. So I think I'm safe in my claim.
You want to know one movie that someone in my church actually did a lesson for the kids that they said had some good Christian values to it? And again, I'm sorry to say this, Gabe, but is K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah, that's a Netflix thing. I don't even know what it's about.
I'm still on board with that movie. I don't care what people at the office say. That movie's a lot of fun. Anyway.
Mark, please tell our listeners about your movie review website.
It is still, I've been busy a lot this month, so I haven't gotten to it much, but I'll put in the chat. It's nothingelse-to-say.com, and I'm also just wanting to answer quickly what Amateur Knight says. My thoughts on Doomsday coming out. I really want it to be good because I've seen the teasers and I don't know why they're doing it the way they are. Obviously, they've been kind of on the downswing as of late with some of their movies. But they've had some good ones. Thunderbolts was really good. But this is definitely one of those ride or die type of movies that if that just goes bad for them, it's not going to go well at all for them going forward.
At some point, you would think the cinematic universe will fail. I think people will just get so tired of keeping up or having to keep up with everything that happens.
Yeah.
We'll see. But, I am excited to, they've taken a break from some of their iconic figures, and they're coming back, so we'll see how that does at the box office.
I did see, what Amateur Night just said about it, the third one. I did see that. I had to see a bootlegged one, unfortunately, but that X-Men one was pretty cool. From what
Send me a link so I can see it, and if you don't have anybody to split a bucket of popcorn, Mark, I'd be happy to go see that in theaters with you together. So keep me posted on your
All right.
schedule, because I don't even know when this stuff comes out. You do. And sometimes there are weeks when you tell me you're going to go see a movie that's coming out, and I'm like, oh, I would have liked to have seen that. And you've already got your ticket, and you're all scheduled. And
Yeah.
So
I'll try to keep you on the know.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to coordinate our schedules a little better, more in advance. Mark, thank you for joining me, sharing your thoughts on Knives Out, Wake Up, Dead Man. I would recommend it to, certainly not for kids. There's some content certainly not kid appropriate. The way that Monsieur Wicks gaslights Father Judd is pretty wild.
Not to mention the things he confesses.
Right, yeah. So definitely not kid appropriate, but I would recommend it to adults. I think it's a great film and fun little, and even for the viewer, like trying to figure out how it happened. It's not simply what makes it an interesting murder mystery is not simply trying to figure out who did it, but how it was done. So there's this added dimension. It's not as simple as, oh, he got, stabbed, but how? I forget the type of mystery it was, but I think they even mentioned was it an Agatha Christie book that dealt with the same type of murder plot?
Probably. It wouldn't surprise me. I have not read Agatha Christie. I really should at some point.
Yep. I don't understand Amateur Knight's comment. Like Daniel's vision, the MCU is in its plastic pinky toe era. I'll have to go refresh myself on Daniel's vision. Or I'll ask ChatGPT what Amateur Knight means, and he'll... locked door mystery. Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. Thank you. It's a locked door mystery.
I was confused because he said Daniel's vision. I thought he was still talking about Daniel Craig for a second.
No, I think he was talking about
Daniel, Old Testament Daniel. Yeah,
that's right. Well, Mark, again, thanks for joining here. I'm going to sign off, but if we find another good movie that it's worth discussing, then we'll bring you back on and chat a little bit more about it. So thank you for joining me today.
As well.
All right. Well, that does it for our program today and this year. The new year is upon us. We're just a couple days away from 2026. My friend Sam wrote on Facebook something to the liking of, he still thinks when he says 2025 that it's futuristic, like it's sometime later in the future. And here we are at the end of it. I share that sentiment with Sam, and it is hard to believe that we are continuing. We're moving into the next quarter of the century. Well, technically this 2025 was the start, because if you count 2000, well, actually no, there was no year zero. We are entering the second quarter of the century, and that really is something, because when you're a kid, time moves slow, and here you are. It just seems to get faster and faster as the years go by. So what's coming up for Veracity Hill in 2026? Well, as I had mentioned earlier, we still have half of this book to get through, so I am intent on having this be our normal programming, but you might find that we've got some interviews, some one-off type of episodes that we are mixing throughout, and so you can expect this. You might also find that I might be taking a week off here or there. We're doing some building projects, and so I'm actively a part of that. We've got a small team here, so sometimes we wear many hats, so the staff here knows that I'm the one with the hammer, and I'm working away, and or I'm doing the electrical or what have you. So we're making improvements to our recording studio right now. And so we've got some folks that are scheduled to come in and do some top quality video recording here at Defenders Media. And Veracity Hill is produced, basically this is my office. And so it's a lot of fun doing this in the setup we've got. And I'm grateful for the way that the Lord has blessed this ministry. And if you have been blessed by this ministry, please consider becoming a partner with me over at veracityhill.com/donate, and you can start your partnership there. I hope that Veracity Hill, perhaps it's like what Anthony was describing. When you want to be challenged, when you want to go deep into understanding the Christian worldview, you come to Veracity Hill to be challenged and to grow in your faith and to have this deeper understanding of the Christian worldview, and that you find yourself growing in your walk with Jesus because of the things that we're talking about and the people we bring on. That's how you might find yourself growing in your understanding and being challenged as well. So speaking of this book, I am not shying away from critics of Christianity. This is not that type of YouTube channel. There are plenty of YouTube channels like that where it's very tribalistic. It's us versus them. Instead, what you have here is someone who's genuinely engaging with the material and weighing the arguments and seeing where it leads. And so that's a part of what makes this tagline that we have at Veracity Hill. About striving for truth. That's what we want to do. We all want to be striving for truth, go where the evidence leads us. And so that's what we look at here on this program. Well, again, that does it for our program today and this year. I'm grateful for the continued support that we have from our patrons. Those are people that just chip in a few bucks each month, whether it's $20 or $50, so on and so forth. If you have been blessed by this program, please consider becoming a patron, a partner with us at Veracity Hill. I'm grateful for the sponsorships that we have with Apologetics 315, with Rethinking Hell, and others. I want to thank the staff at Defenders Media, Gabe, Mark, Sophia, Beth, Dante, Kyle, Kevin, and Chris, and Peter, others that are working and laboring. They are my co-laborers in ministry here. I'm grateful for them every week. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank you for listening or for watching as we're striving for truth on 2025.
This has been Veracity Hill, a viewer and listener supported program. For more resources, including past shows, visit veracityhill.com.